Hello everyone and welcome back to our series of videos about PTP Track Hound. Today I want to show you the new Supervision feature which we recently released in version 2.2. Supervision allows you to monitor the native APIs of switches like Arista, Cisco and Luminex, and we set up a demo rack in our lab to show how this works. On top of the rack we have a Meinberg Grandmaster device. It is a Landtime M1000. We then have a microsync device which is synchronized to the M1000 via PTP-v2 and regenerates PTP-v1 for example for Dante devices. We then have a couple of boundary clocks, one from Cisco, another one from Arista, Luminex and Netgear AV. And at the bottom of the rack we have a couple of time receiver devices from Meinberg. These are microsync XS devices. Okay, in one of the previous videos I already showed you how you can use PTP Track Hound on your microsync time server. Today we are using this feature as well, so we run PTP Track Hound directly on one of the microsync XSs at the bottom of the rack. So we connect to the web UI, go to the configuration page, PTP, and here on the instances page we already see that we have a multicast slave or time receiver running on LAN 1 of the device. So we enable PTP Track Hound on LAN 1, and as soon as PTP Track Hound is running and we are able to connect, there will be a button in the web UI to immediately get access to the UI of PTP Track Hound. So we now connect to the Track Hound UI, log in with the default credentials, and we can immediately see that the capture is already running on LAN 1. By looking at the device map, we can now see the time receiver, which is the microsync XS itself, the Netgear AV boundary clock and the top level Grandmaster clock. And that's it. Because boundary clocks do not forward PTP traffic, we are not allowed to see the Luminex, the Arista or the Cisco boundary clock. Supervision helps us to make this possible. So we now go to the settings page, click Supervision and add the first device, which is the Luminex boundary clock. We enter the IP address of the boundary clock and also the interface we want to connect to. For this one we disable HTTPS and enter the HTTP port of the device and also the default credentials of the device. Once we've applied the settings, we will see that Supervision is now running on one device and the device will also appear in the device map. So we now have the chain of Grandmaster clock, Luminex boundary clock, Netgear AV boundary clock and our time receiver. This still is not the full picture, so we go back to the settings page and also add the other devices. So we add an Arista boundary clock, and also a Cisco boundary clock, and once the settings have been applied, the devices will show up in the top bar of the UI. So we now have 3 of maximum 10 appliances in the default professional version. As soon as we go back to the devices page, we are now able to see the full chain of boundary clocks. So we have one Meinberg Grandmaster clock, the Landtime M1000, a Cisco boundary clock, an Arista boundary clock, a Luminex boundary clock, a Netgear boundary clock, and at the very bottom our time receiver clock. Of course there are also a lot of other Meinberg devices in the rack, and of course we also added support for the APIs of these. So we can also add the microsync, which is directly below the LAN time. And also the additional microsync time receivers, which are located directly next to the one we're using for capture. Once we've done that and applied the settings, we will see that the number of supervision devices increases to 6. And going back to the devices page, we will now be able to see all the devices in the rack. So we have the Grandmaster clock, all the boundary clocks and also all the receiver clocks, and also the Meinberg microsync, which converts from PTP-v2 to PTP-v1. As you can see, PTP-v2 or 2.1 is coming in here, and PTP v1 is going out to another receiver clock in the rack. As you can see, the new Supervision feature helps you to visualize the whole boundary clock architecture, even if you're not connected to all of them via PTP. So we're using the management network to actually show you all the boundary clocks and also all the time transmitter and time receiver devices. Of course, we're already working on the next version of PTP Track Hound, and we're planning to add support for more devices like from Juniper, FS, Mellanox or others. And if you want us to add support for your device, please let us know. We're happy to add support for as much devices as possible. If you don't want to miss the news and want to be informed about the upcoming versions and new feature upgrades, make sure to subscribe this YouTube channel and also our PTP Track Hound newsletter on ptptrackhound.com. Thanks very much for your interest and see you next time.